Redditors who have seen a UFO, Bigfoot or any other mythological creature, what is your story and how did the people you know react to your story? Okay, so I have a story that happened to me and my friends. To set the scene, we were on a Boy Scout camping shooting trip. There were 20-30 of us. We were in a little cabin thing with windows on the front and back, and a front and back door. There were wooden tables all around the area. The adult cabin, with a bathroom, was about 1/8 of a mile down a gravel road in the dark. There was obviously a buddy system, because it's Boy Scouts, so it's around midnight, and everyone had been telling scary stories, like normal camping trips. Well, I had to go to the bathroom, and asked my friend to come along. He said sure, and he got our knives. We knew that there were bears in the woods, and it made us feel safer. Well, we went to the bathroom, and began our walk back. This is where it got scary. I felt an instinctual, not sure if that's the right word, fear. I looked to my friend, and he had the same look as me. We begin to walk a little faster, and unfold our pocket knives. I then turn around, and see it. It looked similar to a cat, but it was 6 feet tall, and was on its hind legs, kinda hunched over. I freaked the heck out, and started running. My friend sees it, and we sprint back to the cabin. It began making a moaning howling noise. It was somewhere between the two, and followed us slowly. We pound on the door, and the guys let us in. We tell them what we saw, and they actually believed us. So we lock the front door, and look at the back door. It had no lock. We pushed a table up against it, and had a kid there with his knife. For safety, we draw the blinds on all the windows that had them, one of them didn't, and we sat there, with all the lights on. Then we see the eyes outside of the windows without blinds. We all are crapping ourselves, and the thing slowly walked to the back door. We heard it bumping up against it, maybe trying to open it, we think. It then left, but we still thought we were going to die. No one slept. When the adults came to wake us up, we told them and they laughed and said we were making it up. We know it happened, even if they don't believe us. Just realized how long this is, and that no one will read it. Oh well. I've lived out in the middle of nowhere for about 10 years. I'm a smoker, and a night owl. I smoke outside, so I've seen some strange things. Distant points of light changing course and shooting off at extreme speeds. Probably meteorites deflecting off the atmosphere. I really don't think a visiting intelligence would have lights on a spacecraft. I've seen several instances of things like this, maybe a dozen or so times, but the one thing I've seen that gave me chills and baffled me was a black oblong object, think cylinder thermos, floating through the sky. It was darker than the night sky behind it, utterly silent, and maybe I'm misremembering, but I recall the night being completely silent too. No crickets, no cicadas, just silence. This was in the middle of summer. I told my family, and they just shrugged their shoulders. I was camping in the Rockies and was stargazing and spotting satellites. I found a satellite and tracked it for a while. Eventually, it halted and switched directions. No one believes me, but I saw it. No, I wasn't high drunk tripping. It was a very clear night, and I was sober. Maybe there is another explanation, but that night it was an unidentifiable flying object to me. Finally a chance to tell my story. About 10 years ago my family and I were up in the White Mountains of Arizona to cut down our Christmas tree. My dad was driving our truck with my grandpa in the front seat, and my mom and sister in the back seat. I was in the bed of the truck along with our family's German short-haired pointer. We were driving along a forest road, and all of a sudden my dog starts barking and growling. So I look to see what it is, thinking it is maybe a bear or mountain lion. What I saw was a tall dark figure walking parallel to the road about 60-70 yards away. I yelled at my dad to stop the truck. When I told him I think I see Bigfoot, he just laughed and continued to drive. When I looked back to get another look at it, the figure had changed directions and was walking away from the road. The last thing I saw was the thing's head disappearing down a hill. To this day I still do not have an explanation for what I saw. Every time the situation comes up my dad always makes me tell everyone my story, just so he can laugh at it. I lived in a funeral home and we had speakers to hear if anyone was downstairs. We'd hear slamming doors and footsteps only to find no one there. At band practice, We all saw blinking lights in the sky that moved really fast and would stop and disappear and reappear and move all around like typical stuff. We recorded it and went on a site and they said those lights went from Washington down to Florida over the course of a few days with thousands of reports. It's hard to argue it was anything when there are hundreds of videos and so many eyewitnesses. Not sure what it was, but most people I tell are very intrigued and not weirded out. I've been dealing with seeing stuff like this for practically my entire life. I deal with hypnagogia, which is a condition that causes me to have extremely vivid hallucinations as I begin to fall asleep. Ever since I was about 7 I have dealt with seeing monsters, ghosts, aliens and pretty much anything else my mind could cook up, all hanging out in my bedroom. Needless to say, it scared the crap out of me for years. Although I've gotten used to it and generally ignore the things I now see. One story sticks with me. My great uncle Bob died when I was 8. The night after his funeral, I dreamed he walked past my bedroom door, wearing entirely white. He stopped and looked in on me, and then with a smile continued down the hall. I remember it being the first time I experienced one of these dreams and wasn't scared. Well, the next morning at breakfast, completely unprompted, my mom talked about this wonderful dream she had where Bob came into her room and sat with her. That was too much for me. I exploded into tears and was inconsolable. The thought that I had then, and I still sometimes deal with today. If Bob was really there, what other things that I had seen were really there too? I've seen 3 things that could be described as UFOs. First one, I was with friends and we all saw it. We were hanging out at a park at night being typical teenagers, and saw a series of red, blue, green, and white lights spinning slowly in the sky. We couldn't see the actual aircraft, but the way the lights were spinning it gave off the impression that it was a plate-shaped object. We all basically stared at it in silence for 45 seconds or so until it just disappeared. A second time was by myself. I was laying out in my backyard and saw a silver disc in the sky. I thought it was a weather balloon at first, but then it started moving very quickly in a triangular pattern. You know the 3 points in a triangle? Picture it going from each point very quickly, taking a quick pause at each point. Like the first time, I watched it for about a minute until it vanished. Third time I was at a party, being held in a garage. I stepped out to the end of the driveway so I could make a call, and saw a slightly reflective black plate-shaped object hovering in the sky. At this point I was basically annoyed. Like, WTF, how many times am I gonna see these things and be scared crapless by them? Anyways, I watched it for a longer time than the first 2, about 3 minutes, and then the sky flashed blue, picture a heat lighting type flash but blue, and it was gone. I asked the partygoers if they saw anything weird and they just said yeah, that random lighting. It's been 4 years since the last time I saw one. I'm pretty convinced I'll live near some secret military testing place or something. To see a UFO once is crazy. 3 times is almost unbelievable. I'm glad it hasn't happened again though, cause it's pretty scary to see. Being held in a garage. For a moment I misunderstood the seriousness of your situation. When I was a kid I was playing by the woods at night catching fireflies. We lived out in the middle of nowhere, about a half-hour drive to the closest town. Well anyway, I hear some sticks breaking and I'm getting excited thinking it might be a wild turkey. I was freaking obsessed with the things even though they weren't known for the area. I was a dumb kid, but now I know that by the sound of the cracking sticks that it could not have been a turkey but something quite a bit bigger. I run over towards the trees and further from the house and I start to get this feeling like I felt before I was about to be punished. Shots of adrenaline and fear. I stopped moving immediately and my eyes were darting along the tree line rapidly searching for what was causing that fear as I broke out in a cold sweat. 2 bright eyes, like a cat's eyes, sat about 3 feet above the ground, about the size of a baseball. It wasn't like the eyes watching from the darkness in movies where they are glaring. These eyes were wide open, unblinking, and staring right at me. I felt like prey. Then, slowly, the eyes rose up until the creature was standing at about 6 feet high. Now I could see its outline. It was huge, bigger than anything I had ever seen. That was when its lips pulled back from its teeth and I hauled butt back to my house. I told my dad and he gave me a spanking with the paddle for lying. That's a paddling. Mine was a ghost. I was about 19. My grandmother had died less than a month prior. We were having a family gathering unrelated to her passing. I couldn't sleep, so I stayed up late watching some old Nick at Night reruns on their old tube. I drifted off on the couch around 2 AM, partly wrapped in a rough green and brown handmade blanket a friend had made for me. I woke up between 3 and 4 AM, felt cold and groggy, looked up and saw my grandmother. "Go upstairs and sleep in a proper bed," she says. "Get moving." I picked up my blanket and dragged it behind me up the steep stairs. She looked better than when I had last seen her alive, but equally as insistent and daunting. I didn't dare refuse. Didn't occur to me until the next morning that she was, in fact, still dead, since this was the kind of thing she would do regularly before she passed. That's nice of her. My mom was taking master's courses when I was in preschool 1st grade. I would wake up in the middle of the night and go downstairs to eat an apple and do a puzzle when she was studying. I distinctly remember floating through the dining room on multiple occasions on my way to the kitchen. I would scream for my mom but she wouldn't hear. I would then wake up to my mom carrying me upstairs because she would find me sleeping on the dining room floor in the same spot behind the table. I was never freaked out until I learned the first owners killed themselves and their young son, who also had red hair, and his body was found in the same spot. I never thought anything of it until I looked up the history of the house. My mom was visibly upset when I showed her. I saw a series of UFOs for about a week. It was all I could talk about. They looked like satellites but moved. I can't even explain it well. The best way to say would be fireflies, but that doesn't do it justice. Anyway, I got labeled as the UFO guy and much humor was found at my expense. 2 weeks or so later we had our annual family reunion camping trip, and around the fire the UFO guy humor started. 2 minutes or so into the amazingly funny jokes, a UFO exactly like I had been talking about flew directly overhead. With as much douchebaggery as I could possibly muster, I pointed up and said, "Just like that right there." Dead silence vindicated and no more UFO jokes. I am very skeptical about UFO sightings overall. 99% of the time, while cool, they can be explained by something very boring. I like to think with the vastness of the universe we aren't alone, but who knows. I have seen probably hundreds of satellites in my life. These were not satellites. Whatever this was swarmed like bees or fireflies. I hate to say it, but to me it looked there was intelligence behind the movements. Also, satellites that I know of and have seen in the past do not accelerate and decelerate at phenomenal speeds. I am not saying aliens. I am saying I have no idea. Black Project, new not public tech, something that was pretty dang cool. I'll go into more description after I get home from work if anyone is interested. Aliens being bros. It was around sunset and I had just left my house to go visit a friend. As I walking on the sidewalk, I saw this triangle-shaped craft hovering over a house. I froze up and just stood there watching it hover for about 10 seconds or so. After that it started to fly away very slowly before taking off very fast into the setting sun. I unfroze and then let out a scream and ran home. I used to tell my parents about it, but they pretty much dismissed it. They said if I did not have any proof, then to quit bothering them. I was pretty young at the time of the encounter, so I have my doubts about the event, but I've never seen any aircraft that resembled it. When I was deployed to Afghanistan, one of my frequent tasks was to help the guy flying the Raven, small UAV with an IR camera on it, at night, looking for insurgents planting bombs in the roads. Usually pretty boring. One night, however, we noticed a circular hot spot in the corner of the camera's view. After flying around a bit to get a better view, me and the operator were wondering what in the heck this featureless hot sphere was. In white cold black hot, this thing was solid, darkest black, and was unmoving for about 5 minutes, after which it rapidly moved down, nearly to the ground. We were flying at about 1,600 featuring AGL, then back up into the sky and out of range of the Raven. We called up the TOC about this UFO. They said it must have been a glitch. They had nothing on satellite view in that area. When we went back to review the footage, kept on a specialized Tubac laptop, the 5 minutes with the UFO in it were missing. I was staring up at the sky one night and spotted what I thought was an airplane. It was moving around rather quickly in pretty cool patterns. It just kind of looked like a bright light and was pulsing rather than blinking. Then rather suddenly it stopped completely and shot back the way it came at a speed that I could only imagine would break the sound barrier, but I heard no crack or anything. Then as quickly it came, it disappeared in a tiny flash in the sky. It looked like the little sparkle that happened on Pokemon when Team Rocket would blast off again. It was very strange and I to this day am completely unable to explain it. I was hiking in Gushenen in Switzerland when I was a kid along with my parents and several of my relatives. We stopped to eat something along the way and me and two of my cousins went exploring for a bit. We found several half-hidden holes the size of basketballs. The holes were completely dark, so we decided to start throwing crap inside to see how deep it was. We couldn't actually hear the noise of the stones falling down, but after throwing crap inside, we suddenly heard a voice from inside the hole clearly yell stuff in some weird language that we couldn't understand. My cousin starts trying to talk with the thing. It responded in guttural language. That's when we decided to GTFO. Everyone decided to get the frick out and we told our parents. They said that it was the Burgist, a mountain spirit that protects and lives under the mountains. I live in Australia, where there are supposedly no big cats living in the wild. Once when I was doing a long desert drive with a friend, I saw what looked like a black panther run out from some bushes, way ahead of the car. It kind of looked towards the car then ran back into the bushes. My friend was napping and I woke him up, but he didn't wake up in time to see it. He was, and still is, convinced that I was either making it up or seeing things. I've since found out that other people claim to have seen the same thing, particularly in West Australia, where I saw it, and South Australia, but it's generally considered a myth. I don't tell many people about it as I don't want people to think I'm crazy. My family have been seeing UFOs at an old family fishing spot for, wow, nearly 100 years now. Weird balls of purple and green light that speed around at night, hover and descend into the ocean off the SW coast of Western Australia. Apparently my great-great-grandfather used to talk about how people were driving them around the sky back in the 1920s. So no one on that side of the family really reacts to weird stuff like that. Personally, I think it might be a phenomena similar to the plasma balls that have been observed elsewhere in the world. Still neat though. I would love to know if anyone else has ever reported these sorts of things in Australia. And if they actually occur with the consistency you say, you really need to set up a good, steady camera and try to get them on film. That would be incredible. This isn't exactly a mythological creature, but it's along those lines. I was on vacation in Minnesota once with my family, and my sister and I were out on the dock by a lake. I was 13, and my sister was about 24. She was on the dock texting or doing something, I didn't know, and I was sitting around in a boat, pretty close to the shore, looking through the water at the fish below. I was a little bored, dropping things into the lake because I thought it was interesting to watch how the fish interacted with items dropped in from above. They would avoid them, but without ever really seeming to notice the objects themselves. They just noticed the impact on the water above them and adjusted accordingly. But this isn't about the fish. Next I saw this anchor type thing with a rope attached to it and decided to go ahead and drop it in. It was kind of shaped like a really heavy metal plate with a pillar in the center that you tied the rope to. Immediately after I dropped, I realized the rope wasn't tied to anything on the other end. Oops. But then a second later something weird happened. I heard this rushing noise and the surface of the water became unstable, and I backed up, and suddenly this massive plume of water came out of the water, like some kind of freak inverted whirlpool or something. I was too terrified and fascinated to look away, but my sister ran over and started screaming at me to run away, and we both fled in terror until we were back at the house. We told our dad. He did not believe us. We went back to the lake. Other than water in places that would only make sense if it had rained recently, there wasn't really any evidence to support the story. Nobody believed us. Years later I kind of doubted it myself, so without giving her any information on my memory of it, I asked my sister what her recollection of the incident was. She remembered it the same way I did, with the exception of I thought she saw me throw the anchor in, and she says she wasn't looking in my direction when I did that, so she doesn't know how exactly the thing started. She did also confirm though, that it was taller than her, so I wasn't just thinking frick that is tall because I was 13. What the heck happened? Did I unwittingly open a gas pocket beneath a lake in Minnesota? Did I wake up some kind of invisible water spout generating fish? What could cause that? You have been visited by the magical duck. You don't have to do anything, he will simply give you a good day today. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.